from the frozen work sites of Russia's Far East to the artillery ranges of North Korea's battle-hardened army. A silent exchange is underway. Laborers traded for missiles, hardship for hard currency, all under the shadow of war. As Seoul weighs silence on human rights, Pyongyang tightens its grip, and the world watches a dangerous bargain unfold. Thousands of North Koreans are being dispatched to Russia to toil in slave-like conditions, filling a severe labor gap worsened by Moscow's war in Ukraine. The BBC reported on August 12th that with many Russian men killed, sent to the front lines, or having fled abroad, the Kremlin is increasingly turning to Pyongyang not only for missiles and artillery shells, but also for manpower. Officials estimate more than 10,000 North Koreans arrived in Russia last year, with that number expected to surge beyond 50,000. Many are deployed to large-scale construction projects, while others are sent to clothing factories and IT centres, all in violation of a 2019 UN ban intended to cut off funds to Kim Jong-un's regime. BBC interviews with 6 defectors, whose names have been changed, paint a grim picture. Men working up to 20-hour days, confined to their work sites and subjected to constant surveillance by North Korean state security agents. They sleep in bug-infested shipping containers or unfinished apartment blocks, often without heating. One escapee, identified as Jin, told BBC about his arrival in Russia's Far East, where a North Korean security agent escorted him directly from the airport to a construction site, warning him not to speak to anyone. Jin said he worked more than 18 hours a day building high-rise apartments, while others described waking at 6 a.m. and labouring until 2 a.m. with just 2 days off a year. Tae, another former worker who managed to escape in 2024, said waking up each morning was terrifying, knowing he had to repeat the same punishing routine, and described his hands becoming paralysed from the previous day's toil. Another labourer, Chan, recalled that some workers would fall asleep standing up, only to be beaten by supervisors, saying it felt truly like we were dying.
Some people would leave their post to sleep in the day or fall asleep standing up, but the supervisors would find them and beat them. It was truly like we were dying.
According to Professor Kang Dong-wan of Dong-I University, who has interviewed numerous North Korean labourers in Russia, the conditions are perilous.
The workers are exposed to very dangerous situations. At night, the lights are turned out and they work in the dark, with little safety equipment.
Some injured workers are denied medical care. Nam, who fell 4 meters and smashed his face, said his supervisors refused to send him to hospital. Others described humiliation, with fellow migrant labourers mocking them as slaves and machines that can speak. The work is coveted in North Korea for its promise of higher pay, but most earnings are seized as loyalty fees for the regime. Workers receive just $100 to $200 a month, and often only upon their return home, a tactic to discourage escape. Tae said he was ashamed to learn that Central Asian labourers earned 5 times more for a fraction of the work. Some have fled using smuggled second-hand smartphones to contact rescue networks. But Pyongyang has tightened controls, increasing ideological training, restricting rare outings, and forcing workers to travel in monitored groups. South Korean data suggests escapes have halved since 2022, with only around 10 labourers making it to Seoul last year. Against this backdrop, South Korea is considering an unprecedented move, withholding its annual report on human rights abuses in North Korea. If confirmed, it would be the first time since the publication began in 2018 that the report is not issued. The Ministry of Unification said on August 11th, it is reviewing various options in response to media reports about the omission. A senior ministry official noted there had been little new testimony from defectors over the past year.
There hasn't been much newly collected testimony from North Korean defectors since last year's publication.
Around 200 defectors have resettled in the south in recent years, but fewer than 10 came directly from the north. Most spent over a decade in third countries before arriving, limiting fresh insight into conditions inside the DPRK. The officials stressed there is no legal obligation to publish the report annually, but declined to say if the move came directly from Minister Chung Dong-young. During his confirmation hearing, Chung opposed using human rights issues to attack the North Korean regime, suggesting it could breach the Inter-Korean Basic Agreement, which bars interference in each other's domestic affairs. Compiled by the ministry's Center for North Korean Human Rights Records, the report is based on defector testimonies and has long drawn anger from Pyongyang. Under Moon Jae-in's administration, it was classified as Level 3, confidential and withheld from the public. Yoon Suk-yeol reversed that in 2023, publishing the report openly and in English to raise international awareness. President Lee Jae Myung's government, in office since June, appears to be pursuing warmer ties with the North, potentially going further than Moon by shelving the report entirely. However, Pyongyang has yet to respond positively to Lee's outreach. Meanwhile, North Korea has been flexing its military muscle. On August 10th, it conducted large-scale artillery firing drills, overseen by senior military figures, but notably without Kim Jong-un's presence. North Korean state media said the exercises aimed to perfect the capability to fight a war and the battle readiness of the entire army, describing simulated strikes with 100% accuracy. State media framed the drills as a show of strength against military gangsters across the border, days ahead of the annual Ulchi Freedom Shield, UFS, a joint US-South Korea exercise scheduled for August 18, 28. Park Jong-chon, Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, and Ri Yong-gil, Chief of the General Staff, attended. North Korea's Defense Minister warned of a forceful response to any provocation.
The DPRK will strictly exercise the sovereign right of the DPRK at the level of the right to self-defense, in case of any provocation going beyond the boundary line.
Seoul and Washington insist UFS is defensive. A US-South Korea Combined Forces Command representative called Pyongyang's rhetoric relatively restrained compared to past threats. The Lee administration has made symbolic gestures to improve ties, last week removing loudspeakers along the DMZ that blared anti-Pyongyang messages. North Korea responded by dismantling some of its own speakers in forward areas. Meanwhile, half of UFS's 44 planned field drills have been postponed to September, officially due to heat waves and flood damage to training grounds. Local media have speculated the delay also serves Seoul's diplomatic overtures. Despite these moves, tensions remain high. The artillery drills signal Pyongyang's readiness to act, while Seoul weighs a softer stance on human rights reporting, a delicate balancing act at a time when North Korean workers are being dispatched abroad in greater numbers and inter-Korean relations hang in the balance.